Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw. I'm looking at the next photograph, which is trash on the beach.
Right.
So let me just describe it, and then you can dive into it to say. So another, beautiful blue sky with a few wispy cirrus clouds that you could see surf. You could see like basically, you could just see the water at the top third, like a small sliver of ocean with a bit of waves, and it's it does look like this perfect surfing beach. But then more than half of the image, the bottom half of the image, is just filled with litter. Of course, lots and lots of plastic litter, buckets, blue plastic, white plastic, orange plastic. There's lots of trees, dead trees. So I'd say more than half of the beach litter looks like trees, like looks like tree debris, like branches and trunks. But that's really sad that half of it, or almost half of it, is plastic garbage. Some of it very large. Chances are there's tons of microplastic in there. So why don't you speak about this image and how you use this to galvanize reaction?
Well, I think, and I actually think that picture is Indonesia.
Oh,
I'm not sure. I mean,
okay.
Take a look at the boats. Are the boats kind of an Indonesian style?
Maybe you're right.
The fishing boats. It's part of the format. So you're showing kids, and you're showing people. Listen, Greenpeace did it. Remember Greenpeace? They'd be on the Arctic with the cute little white fluffy seal.
Mm-hmm.
So they're showing you something you love. Mm-hmm. Then the next shot is they've captured a footage of hunters beating the out of the seals and little bloody seals because they're taking the fur. Yeah. So you showed something you love. You show it being damaged. You give some people something to do about it. Well, the altar call, so to speak, to do something about it is to donate to Greenpeace. Right. So it's classic. Yeah. So the power of showing kids the ocean and reasons to fall in love with the ocean, it's fun, and there's food and oxygen, and so you're giving them reasons for it. You don't have to really give them too many reasons because in general, people like...
Well, for sure.
Yeah, and then you show the animals tangled up in the trash. Yeah. So the imagery is shocking. Kind of a hit in the head. And then like an image like that, when you show an image like that, because I'm showing this in an auditorium, way beyond what you're seeing it for size on your phone or in the computer. This is like a full... We're in some of these auditoriums. I mean, they have screens that are the size of movie theaters. Yeah, yeah. And so the image is like full on,
super sobering.
Yeah, and so you're showing something they love. Oh, you show them the animals. That the animals are nice. The beach is nice. It's all clean. And then you show, and this is what we're doing. Yeah. And then I get into this is how it happens. By making that storm drain connection, trash washes down the beach. You give them something to do about it.
It originally started with just you, but it grew into more of an organizational thing. So what's the name? What's the website? Talk about the organizational side of it.
Well, I mean, it's Kids Ocean Day. kidsoceanday.org is the website. And yes, it started with me with one school. And then for many years, in LA, it was me. I'd go out to 100 schools a year. Wow. And since then there's been another person who's been with the organization for about 8 years, Karen, and she goes out and does assemblies too. So both of us are going out together. The expansion came, the California Coastal Commission funds the program. Wow. And they wanted to see it expanded into other cities. So they did some organization. They reached out to other nonprofits up and down the state that they already had relationships with, doing beach cleanups. Okay. There's an annual beach cleanup, coastal cleanup day. And so the California Coastal Commission in California organizes that and has relationships with all these nonprofits. Yeah, for sure. And some cities up and down the coast for coastal cleanup. So then they, looked into their database and they said, well, San Diego here, we work with I Love a Clean San Diego. So they approached them and said, would you like to, be part of this group, and they did it with San Diego, and then Orange County Orange County Coast Keepers, then 3 more groups in Northern California. And so they would come to LA, and I would show them the assembly and do some, trainings. And then they would they'd have someone who would get up, and I would coach them.
Right.
So because it's a performance piece.
Yeah.
It really is a performance piece. And so you're looking for people to do it that, have that little bit of a performer actor in them.
Right.
And then I supplied pictures for years. I gave them all the pictures. And then over the years, they kind of tweak it a little bit, to their own locale.
Sure.
But they're essentially getting the same message across. So that's gone.
So as somebody who's so I've definitely had my share of, you say it's like a performance, and it is, experience kind of speaking to large groups and trying to motivate people to really kind of get engaged. So if you look back on the years of talking to people and all this stuff, is there one moment that sticks out as being, I call them happy accidents, where you would have never imagined that this would be the outcome, but because it's way too complex, and then suddenly something happens that you're just like, that came out of nowhere, and that was amazing?
Well, when I was a kid, I went to New York City. I wanted to be an actor. So there was that performance desire of that, and I found that doing this satisfied very much that performance desire, and at the same time, I found out pretty quickly that people liked it. I mean, after doing 1 or 2 of them, and we reached out to schools, the phone went off the hook. And that was back in, the early 90s, 93, wow. 94.
Was there a time when, from the kids' side, that would be like pretty satisfying? But was there a moment where something came up where you're just like, that was really unexpected, and what a delight, how amazing is that?
I think because when I first started this, I thought that there was a lot more organization of beach cleanups in place. And I would just go to the schools and do this show and just push the schools to the beach cleanups. And I hadn't even thought of like my doing an event. I was more of like, had my little stage and microphone, and I was happy. But then it became clear that wasn't like that. And so I organized a beach cleanup in LA. And it was the teachers were like, yeah. And the first year there was like 3,000 kids.
Wow.
And, I'd never done a big event like that. And it was like, it was quite overwhelming. And I think that's where the surprise was, is how much, that I found this place where I didn't have to relate to anybody else. There was no permission. There was no it was like, I have these direct relationships with these teachers in schools, and they like this. And, we'll do it again.
Wow.
And matter of fact, that the first year there was so many, nothing went wrong, nobody got hurt. But, I could see that it was a little wild and
a new frontier.
Yeah. But the teachers who went that first time, they went, no, it was fine. I think that they had their class, their little bunch of chickadees, and they're 30 kids. And so they were okay. So it didn't make any difference if everything was crazy around them and there was like 3,000 kids on the beach.
Wow.
And then, I worked with John, who you haven't met John, but he, organized them to do some letters on the sand.
Wow.
And corralled them around. And matter of fact, that when I looked at it, and I like production. I'm becoming a neat guy, and I like it organized. And so I saw this, and so the next year I said, I got to do a little more planning, and I cut it way down to like 800 kids. I said, I've really got to see how this works, because
I love how you say, I cut it way down to 800. I mean, whoa, man, that makes my head swim. That's amazing.
And I'd always give Doug a hard time. And one thing too, that when I look at who I am in the world, my coping mechanism for chaos is to be neat. I can see myself as a little kid. Every kid was the house is crazy, and there's arguments and tensions. But I mean, there was no divorce or anything, and my parents weren't beating us, and we were well cared for. But every kid is like, it's a state of chaos around there. So how do you manage that? And I think that my way was to be neat.
Wow.
And so here I am, 30 years later, telling kids to be neat. Do not litter.
Funny. That's funny.
You know, it's like,
that's funny.
Yeah. Our coping mechanisms really do guide us.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I kind of give Doug a hard time when we first did the Kids Ocean Day in Hong Kong, and I think there were 800 kids, right? Mm-hmm. And I kind of give him a hard time. I goes, come on, Doug, you got to come to the LA with the big boys here, because we had some years where I think we brushed up against 6,000. I don't know quite exactly whether because I count the kids, I count the volunteers, I count the teachers, and it could have been 5,800, and so I'll call it 6,000,
which is just like 6,000 humans together.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Well, I mean, listen. Go ahead. Actually, what?
No, I think it's a great segue for the next photo. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.